Welcome to Nasdaq TradeTalks. I'm your host, Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq. We're coming to you live from SmartCon in New York City. Joining us for this segment, we have Rugg, Global Head of Digital Assets, Treasury and Trade Solutions at Citi. We're here to discuss what interoperability means for institutional adoption and how these kinds of standards could accelerate the next phase of digital assets integration into traditional finance. Ryan, it's great to see you as always. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
You got it. And walk us through Citi's Treasury and Trade Solutions digital asset strategy. What have you achieved so far, and how do you see it evolving over the next few years?
Yeah, so we've been on this journey for quite some time now. I joined the organization 3 years ago, and we asked a lot of our large multinationals what were their pain points in the industry. And one of the pain points that came back was the frictions within the banking system, the cutoff times, weekends, holidays. They really wanted 24/7, 365 liquidity and payments that could, and within our global network. Cities in 90 plus different countries. We serve 19,000 clients. They didn't want, if it's 5 p.m. in New York, 5 a.m. in Singapore, not to be able to send money. They wanted to be able to do it instantaneously. So last September, we launched what was called Citi Token Service. We're live in US, UK, Singapore, and Hong Kong. We're adding additional branches and currencies this year. And now clients can move money Saturday, Sunday, Chinese New Year across the globe. And that's really important. If we think about, the speed of internet, why does the speed of money not match that? It should be frictionless. And that's really what we've been building towards.
So how do you think digital assets are going to pave the way towards a more efficient financial ecosystem? Because this really is going to alter
100%.
the ecosystem as we know it. You could explain some of the pain points, but how do you see the underlying technology solving this?
So you think of a traditional, large corporate today, they manage liquidity across the globe. They have businesses, suppliers in multiple regions. So what typically happens is that they will forecast the amount of money they need in these regions and put that money in advance in it to be able to do, BAU activities, payroll, taxes, pay suppliers. Well, now imagine to be able to do it just in time, where you don't have to kind of have that forecasting. You can do it immediately, even if it's a Saturday, a Sunday. So taking that, what we call latent liquidity out of the system to really add that efficiency across the globe.
Yeah, which is interesting because you brought up holidays before as well. I mean, the holidays aren't the same, with the U.S. and around the world. I mean, even, weekends, 5 p.m. in New York is 5 a.m. the next day in Singapore.
Exactly. We had a client that was during Chinese New Year, so Singapore was closed. And what they were doing was they were buying U.S. equities and bonds and had margin calls here in the U.S. So typically what the client would do, this broker-dealer, is a forecast so they estimate how much stock and equities and margin calls they were going to have. Well, now they can do it instantaneously based on actual numbers, actually what they bought, what the actual margin calls were, which is a really game changer for them.
It really is. You had mentioned Citi Token Services, and it's helping to advance interoperability with multiple banks and leveraging private blockchains and so forth. Can you expand on what interoperability means for a financial institution? Because we hear that word a lot.
Yes.
Right? And how these kinds of standards really could accelerate the next phase of digital adoption.
Yeah, interoperability is really important. No clients want a Citi-only token. From day one, interoperability has been our forefront. And we've been a member of numerous consortiums out there, starting with, the regulated liability with the Fed, to fast forward several now in this ecosystem. But in addition to this ecosystem play, Citi is a massive corresponding bank, right? We have 1,500 banks that we service. 250 of those banks are on what's called 24/7 USD clearing. So they have access to 24/7 dollar clearing within Citi's network. We are integrating Citi Token Service into that. So 2 of our solutions we are integrating. So now we will be a true multi-bank solution within Citi, as well as waiting for a kind of regulatory clarity on what does it mean for highly regulated institutions like Citi to participate in public networks.
So when you think about digital assets and tokenization within the industry, how do you quantify success? What are the benchmarks when you think more short-term and then longer-term?
Short-term for me has really been, I've been in this industry a decade now. Prior, a lot of times they were shadow systems. The digital asset, infrastructure wasn't the system of record. Clients weren't using it as, a BAU product. It was more of a shadow, where that was one measure of success coming in Citi. And I'm happy to say we're now processing billions on CTS. We have close to 100 clients on, and we're seeing new flows. It's actually, clients are using it as a system of record. They're using it real time. So another example is we have a large e-commerce platform that's on it. And, when we thought of Citi Token Service, we thought clients would use it off hours and weekends where the cutoff for the banks, the friction was. We have this e-commerce platform that is now sending money back real time from the US to Asia to suppliers. We're 24/7, not just weekends and holidays or when cutoffs are. So it's been really interesting to see the adoption across the network.
It almost sounds like adoption begets adoption.
I am a big believer success breeds success.
Yeah.
I have done so many POCs in this industry about what I thought was going to really solve a real pain point, but start with something really small, like tokenizing cash. You could argue is one of the most simplistic assets tokens. But then once you do that, you can move it safely and soundly around the four walls of your own institution. You can join potential networks. You can add multi-asset. You can add multi-currency, but everything has to go back to that fiat, that cash leg of it.
Sense. All right. Appreciate the insight as always, Ryan. Thanks for joining us on Trade
Thanks,
Talks.
Jill.
And thanks for joining me from SmartCon. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.